to be.
All right, let's stay on retail here. Another day, or another round, I should say, of retail earnings, this time from Nordstrom and Urban Outfitters. Right now, the two clothing retailers are really getting hit here in the pre-market. For Nordstrom, a beat on earnings wasn't enough to overshadow a cut to the full-year guidance. This following what CEO Eric Nordstrom called significant deceleration of customer traffic and demand in June. And also, we're watching Urban Outfitters falling short of Wall Street expectations this quarter. But let's start with Nordstrom, because some of the commentary on the conference call is something that I've not heard from in the latest rounds of earnings season or earnings reports from retailers, that consumers are not shopping the clearance and sales racks. Usually, when you put things on clearance, you put things on sale, people are buying these things.
Yeah.
And I think it says a lot about how much consumers are still being impacted with inflation, despite gas prices coming down, that they're not out in these stores buying merchandise deemed discretionary that they don't need right now. They're probably spending that money on food.
And, yeah.
I was just going to say, talking about the conference call for just a second, I mean, one thing I will say in the favor of this management team, they gave a lot of detail on this call and also acknowledged that there are issues, which is not something that we have seen from all of the companies during this earnings season. So, I know you like to give kudos or credit where credit is due on this point. So the clearance is a problem. Private label is a problem at Nordstrom itself. We heard it from Macy's, indeed. We've been hearing it from Bed Bath & Beyond also, for that matter. And designer, the higher end merchandise is selling, but the sales are slowing. So those were kind of the three things that the company called out. Clearance is seeing less appeal, private label is not selling, and the designer trends, while still strong, are slowing.
Yeah, and they did give a lot of clarity on the call, talking about the refreshing of the closet and that rate of refreshing of the closet, especially among the higher end consumers that they're looking to go after. If you do see any dwindling in that, that's going to have a continued impact on the pressures that they had already laid out with regard to the markdowns that they're going to have to do on the other side of the consumer profile that they're trying to get themselves a little bit closer to, expecting, and they said this on the call, we're expecting that this clearance activity and associated markdown pressure is going to reduce second half gross profit by approximately $200 million, which had to be baked into the updated outlook as well.
I think you may have coined the T-shirt replenishment rate. You were the grill replenishment rate. That was the top story on our site last week. I mean, yes, it was. It just blew up. I mean, that was very catchy. It was good work, Brad, as always. But look, this is just what bothers me here is they also saw weakness in Nordstrom Rack.
Yeah.
And we heard weakness too last week from TJ Maxx and Marshalls. These are places that I think the street was expecting to be somewhat recession resistant, that did well, surprisingly, going back to the Great Recession, or relatively well, and they're not right now. It's a huge red flag.
Yeah, I mean, to me, Rack, I don't know. I used to love Rack.
I used to as well.
Rack is not what it used to be. Like, TJ Maxx and Marshalls were in another category, and then you had Rack, which actually had the stuff from Nordstrom that they couldn't sell. So you could go there and find some really interesting stuff, kind of more like a Century 21, where you were finding higher-end things at deep discounts. But Rack, it feels like for years, the stuff there has not been that special, and you feel like it doesn't necessarily even come from the Nordstrom stores, like they're sourcing it from other places. That's the vibe. They said, I think they say 90% of the merch there is from Nordstrom stores.
Yeah,
doesn't feel that way.
Just looking at the producer cam, too, it looks like a lot of folks are not liking Rack right now, and they're saying the experience is, overwhelming.
There's the treasure hunt aspect of it.
Yeah, Nordstrom Rack ain't nothing but Kohl's was in 2009.
Yeah.
Well, look at Urban Outfitters. We've been talking about Nordstrom, too. Margins down over 600 basis points. Those missed consensus. Sales under pressure. Conference call, their team noting that core Urban Outfitters shopper, which is very price sensitive, is under a lot of pressure so far in August. So Urban peeling back a little bit on some of the trends they're seeing halfway through August. That Urban Outfitter customer in North America really under a lot of stress.
Yeah, great Philadelphia company here, just not doing so well on the day. It's down by about 1% here pre-market. But I'll tell you, I've been in an Urban Outfitters on multiple occasions and shopped online over the past year. And from the home category all the way to the refreshing of the closet as people were getting back into some of the social constructs. I think what they had also kind of noted here is their retail segment net sales, even though they increased 1%, it's the comp retail segment net sales also increasing 1% on top of that, and the digital channels that are so important for them to also maintain at a time like this where you saw that influx of people that were searching for everything from in the home category and then transitioning that search traffic back back into some of the actual apparel that they bring in stores.
Yeah, I think you also have to think of who Urban Outfitters targets,
Yes.
which is 20-something, teens and 20-somethings, I think we can say. And those are probably the people who are most likely to be out there in the world. Yes, they want to get a new T-shirt or whatever.
You just call Brad old? Is that no?
No,
I
it's
was
the
just there.
opposite. He's shopping there.
Trying to start something. Just trying to start something. I'm tired of the attention being on me. Just trying to get something going here.
So it makes sense, right, that those people are out. They're spending their money on beers. They're not going to Urban Outfitters.
Yeah, I do feel a little older.
Beer is inflationary.
Beer
is inflationary.
Yeah, exactly.